All right, here with head coach of Ohio State, Tom Ryan, here at the Jennings Wrestling Facility. Coach, really a lot of excitement coming this year for Ohio State wrestling. What is and you're someone who maintains a high excitement level, I would say. What is your excitement, your hope, your energy as you head into this season?
Well, we had a great summer, right? Starting with the summer, the season ended for some the way they wanted it to, and for others, no. So we had a really productive summer. Coach Jaggers, Logan, Bo, Colin Moore is now with the RTC, so helping out with the RTC. It was a really productive summer. We lost someone. We picked up a couple guys in Porla, which is something we hadn't really done in the last couple of years. So we're excited about the team. And up and down the lineup, we've got a guy that loves the sport. I mean, in some weights, several.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really competitive room. So we're just looking to get going. They come back August 25th. The team reports back in. They've been gone for a couple of weeks. We got, like I said, a really good summer of training. And just excited to compete, get these guys going.
Want to kind of go weight by weight and get, some weights are more obvious than others, but just who you see, maybe not pick, you're not picking your starter here in August, but just how you kind of see that weight starting at 125. Brendan McCrone's been the guy there, had some amazing wins, had some tough losses last year. He pinned Luke Lildahl right here. What is your view right now on 125 pounds?
Well, we've got, two guys that really obviously stand out. Vinny, who we've seen Vinny compete. He beat at the national, at the Journeyman last year, beat the kid from UNC, Spencer Moore, who was tough. We watched him wrestle Penn State at 125 a year ago and wrestled extremely well. So, and he'll challenge McCrone. McCrone's been the guy the last 2 years. McCrone, you hold on to McCrone because he's got that knockout punch, on top at any time. If you break position, he can make it a costly error for you. He's really good with the cradle on top. Everybody knows that now. But that'll be a big wrestle-off. Vinny was dealing with some injuries all summer long. So his summer probably wasn't as productive as he wanted it to be, knowing that he's chasing one to get in the starting lineup. But so those two will be one of those two will be the starter at 25. It'll probably be probably relatively tight all season long.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's McCrone's got to he's got to break through. He's got to work on not giving up his legs as much, and when he does, be more effective. He's got to be even more dominant on top. Like if you're going to be a top guy, you got to turn. You can't ride to lose. So and he's worked really hard this summer. So looking forward to seeing how he competes here early season.
And one of the most hotly contested weights, I think, in NCAA wrestling, may be 133 for you guys. You've got Bouzakis. He's been really solid for you guys, yet to get on the podium, but been right there. And then you've got this freshman, Ben Davino, who looks every bit the part of the blue chip recruit he was coming out of high school.
Yeah, excited about 33. Obviously, I think a tough situation to have two guys at that level in the same weight class, but a good situation. I think the worst thing in life isn't to be a non-starter at a place like this for a year, right? So Nick they're really tight. Last year, Davino beat him by a point early in the year. Davino had a great year. Nick had a really good year. Moments where it looked like, we thought he'd be in the national finals, right? He has that potential. So you have two guys that, both of them, if either one were in the national finals, you wouldn't be surprised. Nick won the U23s. Like he teched his way through the U23 bracket at that weight. He's a little better at freestyle than folk style. The wild, the freeness of freestyle, his top game in freestyle is a little better. But that's a hotly contested weight, and they're both training hard, and we'll let them settle it.
Yeah, it feels like for Nick, the point scoring ability never in question. Maybe tactically, right? How do you address that? Because it's not as clear as like, oh, when this happens, do this technically. It's more like in the moment decision making seems to be the thing. How do you approach that?
Yeah, decision making is tough for Nick at times. At times they're really good, and at times they're not. I think the big thing starts with practice. Practice. You've got to be on yourself. You got to be difficult, hard on yourself. You got to pick partners that challenge you, and partners that will bring you to positions that you may not like, but you need to figure out. So I think that's a big piece of it for Nick. It's just continually really valuing practice and partner choice and how you compete in practice.
Yeah. And then Ben Davino, I think he showed a lot in freestyle this spring, just kind of where he stacks up, beat some good guys. Was up on Fix. Fix got injured, but that was going his way. Is this what you expected from Davino when you recruited him? Someone that could come in and contend right away?
Yeah, I think big thing with Ben is trusting his offense. Ben is a great wrestler. Ben loves wrestling. I mean, his habits are incredible. His discipline's incredible. I think he beat 3 former NCAA champs in a row at the Open, I think, right?
Okay.
He beat, he was training with us, Megaludis, right, in a close match, and then he beat Fix, and then he beat someone before that, too.
Yeah.
But 3 big wins in a row, so his level of wrestling is so high. And it's just really, I think the big thing was just trusting his offense. He's got a really good offense, and I think it's valuing, what does success look like? Is a win success, or is taking 35 attempts success? I think that goes for practice, that goes in competition. How do you evaluate a good day? And my evaluation of a good day is relentlessly attacking, regardless of how many scores you get, being someone that continually takes high-level risk. So, I think that's Ben's big thing, and he's excited, ready to go. He wanted to wrestle last year.
Yeah.
There's a rule, they're talking about this rule of 5 for 5. So, there's a lot of communication with he and Nick about, will this 5 for 5 happen? And we just weren't in a position that we felt sure enough that the NCAA would move that way. So Nick stayed in there the entire year. We redshirted.
So I think a lot of people maybe don't know what you're talking about. When they hear 5, maybe they think the 5-match rule, but you're referring to something else. Could you explain that?
Yeah, so the NCAA was looking at, all student athletes coming in across sports. Right now in wrestling, your redshirt year, you can compete up to 5 times. They're looking at, in your career, you would have 5 chances to wrestle at the NCAAs. No redshirt, just 5 opportunities. So just no redshirt. So instead of, 5 years to wrestle 4, you would have 5 to wrestle 5. So it sounds like that might pass.
Yeah.
So we just don't know yet. Which really it puts coaches in a tough spot from a recruiting standpoint.
Of course.
But hopefully we'll know about this soon.
Yeah, you feel like within the next year.
I do. I think the trend is moving that way. So I think that's what will happen. But until it does, it's a high risk to assume that.
Absolutely. And you've got Jesse Mendes, of course, at 141, 2-time national champion. What did he show you last year? Big Tens didn't go his way. He had a dual loss to Bo Bartlett. What did he show you at that NCAA tournament, once again bringing home the title?
Yeah, I think in any of his losses, you watch the matches and you think, well, he was the aggressor. He had more opportunities to score. Maybe not many more, but enough. And and then you walk alongside him and you watch the way he trains and his belief system, and you never stop believing that Jesse he'll find a way to get it done. And the weight has cleared out a little bit, but there's some people, Etchemendia is moving down, and who knows what Marcus will do. You've got Nebraska is back, right? The kid from Nebraska, what the heck's his name?
Brock Hardy.
Brock Hardy.
Yeah.
Brock, he's really good.
Really good.
So it's a great weight. And Jesse is just a great leader and deeply loves the sport and has zero fear of fatigue, zero fear of tough situations. Looks forward to it. And when you have that trait with the talent and skill he has, you're in a position to win 3 titles, which, I think Ohio State has had Logan and Kyle. And I think Tommy Rollins probably would have done it had he not been injured at the NCAAs. But, getting 3 isn't easy. Obviously, getting 4 is not easy either, but getting 3 is tough. So, he's chasing something that is rare, and I know he's motivated to do it.
Absolutely. What were your takeaways from his freestyle season? 65 was clearly anyone's game. It ended up being a real woods.
I think the loss, it's like Garth Brooks' Unanswered Prayers.
Yeah,
good song. I think the loss was probably, to Woods. I'm talking the loss at the U.S. Open. I thought he was going to make the Olympic team, and he had a tough loss to Rutherford. I thought the bracket was interesting, the way that whole thing worked out. I thought he was the best guy in the weight that weekend. And I thought he was going to win the U.S. Open this year, make the team this year, the trials. But, but he did need a break. I think, it's rare when you can go a college season and then an international season, a college season, international season. He's been competing so much. And not a break from training, just a break from, right? But life is different when competitions are coming. And, working out is one thing. Working out to compete is something different. So I think it'll prove to be beneficial for him. He trained hard this summer, and I think the break of not being on that team, could bode really well for him come the end of come March next year.
And then you got a transfer at 149, Ethan Styles. Has he been in Ohio State yet?
Yeah.
What have you seen from him so far?
Well, he came right away, right after the school year ended at Oregon State. As soon as he committed here, he pretty much moved here. We have like a 6-week training phase, from pretty much from mid-June to beginning of August. So he was here the whole time.
Okay.
Did a really nice job. I think he would say this, that the amount of work he put in this 6-week period was probably more than he was used to over the summer, a bit more, but he loved it. I mean, he really wants to be great. He loves the sport. He's a real competitor, has a strong belief in himself.
Yes.
And we needed the weight. It's not like, we went and grabbed an All-American and replaced a guy that was, in the round of place. We didn't do that. Just not something that, quite frankly, we would do. We had a really big gap there from a team standpoint.
Yeah.
We had to fill it. We let our team know during the year, every guy in my team knew that unless one of you really stepped up, we're going to have to look in the portal at 49.
Yeah.
And he was a great pickup.
Yeah. A unique personality for sure.
Yeah,
How has he
unique.
jived? What have you learned
Yeah.
about him and his approach? Obviously, you talked about his belief, but just
Yeah.
generally.
I think when you have a guy, in general, when you have a guy that's willing to work out twice a day really hard, you can find a common ground.
Yeah.
He loves to work out. He loves to train. He wants to help the team. He's really grateful he's here. He grew a lot at Oregon State. They did a great job with him. I think it was in Nebraska earlier. I think he might have committed
Yes.
in Nebraska. But he's grateful. He was under the gun. When you transfer after a second year from an eligibility standpoint, academically, not every school accepts all your credits. You might have done well in those classes, but if there's no common class here, despite what you got in that class, they won't accept it here. So he had a full go academically. I think he had 10 credits this summer, which was a lot in one semester. So he did a good job there, had like almost a 3.0 in his class. It was training really hard. So, I really like what I saw from him all summer long.
That's great. And then 57, what are you seeing there as your potential options?
Man, from here at 57, 65, Cannon was thinking he might move up to 65 right after the season. He was growing quite a bit, but his body kind of maintained. And he can win, your shot of winning 57, quite frankly, as good as the weight is a little easier than 65 with mess and break. Cannon's not one, he didn't care.
Yeah.
He's not one to run from anybody. But looks like his weight has kind of solidified at 57, so he'd likely be, one of the guys at 57. And then you have Burden, Burden who at the U23s had the Iowa 65-pounder beat. I mean, he had a leg in the air. Like if you had to pick between our guy and their guy with 15 seconds left and that score, give me my guy in that position. It was usually a high success position and just barely made a mistake to not score to win, to beat Caliendo.
Yeah.
So that's just an indication of where he is when he's wrestling well. He needs to be more aggressive. He needs to attack more. And if he does that, he's dangerous because he has great attacks and he can score. And then he's really good on top. And, to be effective on top, sometimes you got to get there 2 or 3 times.
Right.
The first one just isn't enough. The guy kind of feels you in the second one. So you have Burden, who will challenge it at 65, Gallagher right now. I mean, that'll be probably a big wrestle-off at 65. I don't know what the loser will do. Will the loser go up and challenge Carson? Will he go down and challenge Cannon? And we've got to get this done in a reasonable time because you have the match count and all the things that help with seeding at the NCAAs and getting a wild card if you need it. So we have 3 really good guys for 2 weights right now. And there's a bunch of other guys in the room that are tough, but these seem to be the guys that right now are ahead of anybody else.
And as you enter a season, how do you counsel guys? How do you counsel a Patty or a Nick Bouzakis? Like, hey, I think you should do this way, that way, or is it they more make the decision and talk with you about it?
Yeah, I mean, there's not too many times where we're adamant, about this is where you need to go. This was a situation with Rocco last year early on. It was like 74, 84. I mean, you come in at 195 pounds, and you're cutting a ton of weight last year. Your body's growing very often at this level of wrestling, you see guys do really well when they move up a weight. And I have a history of student athletes that they moved up and they just were better. Mm-hmm. So we sit with them, talk to them about it. Here's what we think. Ultimately, we do not make the decision. We'll let them decide. And that's the case here. Patty wanted to go up. We let Patty go up. So he'll challenge Burn at 65. And if Cannon came to us in the beginning of the year and said, if he comes back at 180 pounds, mm-hmm. It's like, well, we just, it's hard to flip a mindset where your whole career you've cut so much weight and you've had some success there doing that. So it's hard to flip someone's mindset. And this is all about belief. And we don't want to get in the middle of their belief, but they do trust us. And so we'll let them settle it, but we share with them, what I'm sharing now.
Yeah. Carson at 74 feels like he's solid there. Kind of a tough conclusion to his season that had a lot of excitement, had, people look like he could be a potential finalist at points in this year. I talked with him, but just curious for your read on Carson coming into this year and why you think his potential is high.
Well, he's been here for a while.
Yeah.
This is the longest I think anyone's ever been in Ohio State, and Carson, and the rules have allowed it. So grateful that he loves the sport enough to keep coming back. This is the first time in a long time that he's actually had a full summer of training. He had a pretty good summer the summer before, but his leg, he got surgery on his ACL. He was wrestling here with I would call unproductive summers, and we all know that anybody that climbs levels, if you think the summer is a time off, you're falling behind. Mm-hmm. And so it's been tough for him to train at a level that he needs to train at. And he did that all summer. I'm really optimistic. I think he can beat anybody. I watched, and he wrestled Haynes in the, he's up. He's just got to be able to maintain his intensity the whole match. I mean, that's the deal with Carson. Be the aggressor. He's got great skills. He's got great attacks. I thought last year at the Nationals, finishing, which was never a problem for him. He was a master finisher, was a problem in both his losses. And he had a tough draw. But I thought that, you watch the tape over, he out-wrestled both of them. He just lost on points. So we're super excited he's back. We know he's a potential champion at the weight class. And it's about him getting it done, believing that and getting it done. Great summer and glad he's back.
And then 84, you bring in Dylan Fish back as well. But before we talk about Dylan, just what was your read on where it, I don't even know if the word went wrong or what led to Rocco leaving? What was your read now that the dust has maybe settled?
Yeah, they're young. I left Syracuse after my second year. There was zero communication between me and anybody at the University of Iowa. So that was a difference. Mm-hmm. Or there was no middleman. When there's it's just the way it goes. I mean, student athletes have friends that are in the sport and they're in your ear. There was no money for me leaving. In fact, there was a massive loss for my family leaving Syracuse and walking out of Iowa. I got $300 in the second semester. Gable brought me in after I beat Pat Smith. And he said, hey, I want to talk to you about scholarship. And he gave me $300.
Wow.
Which to me was, it was a diamond ring, a 5-carat diamond ring to me, because he knew I was going to make a difference there. I remember walking back to my apartment. There were no cell phones, and calling my dad and saying, listen, Gable just met with me. He gave me $300. And it was like massive celebration. Called my brother, who was at Syracuse at the time, finishing up. It was a different time, and I lost a year. He wanted to wrestle me my freshman year, and I couldn't wrestle because of the penalty leaving. So, there not being a penalty for Rocco definitely hurt us. Mm-hmm. You could wrestle right away, and I'm sure there was money involved. We had a really, really strong NIL offer that he committed to. He was super happy, and his family were really happy. But at the end of the day, listen, I love Rocco, It was a tough decision. I think he probably has regrets in the way he handled it. But he's young, and if that's where he wants to be, that's where he should be. We were fortunate that an Ohio boy that loved, his room was tethered with Ohio State stuff as a kid in Fishback. There was an opening for him, and as tough as it was for him to leave there, he wanted to come home. So we were happy to get a guy that really wanted to be here and is a high-level guy. But honestly, there's no hard feelings with Rocco. I love Rocco. We poured into Rocco. We did what was right for Rocco. Every step of the way, I did what was right for Rocco. And it was right to redshirt him or just go 84, right? Mm-hmm. That was the right move for him. That was the best thing for him, although it's tough. It was tough for him, because he wanted to compete as a competitor. And it's like, what do you mean I'm redshirting? I want to be back at 74. So it was tough. Tough situation. When you look back at those situations and you wonder, where is the learning? What could we have done better? Carson, we knew Carson was coming back at 74 in December. So it's like if you wrestle Rocco all through November and December and Carson beats him, now you've made the bonehead move of the year where you could have redshirted him and just wait. Right. And the best thing for him was to be at 84. I believe that. So it was tough, but his dad and I still text. His dad and I are friends, and I think that's the way it should be. And we wish him nothing but good luck. We got a great guy at 84. We got a guy that wants to be with us, a guy that loves Ohio State. And ultimately, you want people that want to be with you. So Fishback did a great job this summer. Wrestled really well at U23s. Trained hard. And, we're glad he's with us.
Yeah. 97, looks like another potential battle there. Geog, Shoemate. Your overall thoughts on 197?
We're just loaded there, with 3, with Rogotsky as well.
Oh, yeah.
Sweet Rogotsky. Well, Rogotsky's moved up. Rogotsky, he really, he had a great freshman year, and you wonder sometimes, well, what happened? Why was a freshman year so productive, and the sophomore year they kind of struggle. I think a big piece for Ryder was he was just enormous. Coming out of high school, 84, he just grew a lot. And 84 became a real struggle for him. So he's moving up to 97 now. He still has a red shirt. Luke and Shoemate, neither one is a red shirt. So it's really between the two of them. But if Ryder showed that, because he's going to be battling the same situation next year, kind of like Bazakis and Davino, where, they were going to be battling each other again this year, so you got to put the best guy in. But so we're in a good spot there. Luke's trained really hard. Luke was wrestling really well, and had a season-ending injury in Vegas. And then Shoemate, moved back up to 97 and did a really nice job for us. He's in the All-American round, and he, maybe some know, some don't, but he really hurt his rib in the round before the All-American round, and he didn't really give much of a fight in that All-American round match. It looked bad.
Yeah.
It looked bad. It looked like you're in the All-American round as a spectator or a fan. You're saying, "This is the All-American round. Like this is the moment you're waiting for. Why is there so little fight?" He was hurt pretty bad, but he's healed now. Had a good summer, and he and Geog are the two that we're watching most closely. But if Ryder separates, then he'll be in there.
Yeah. And then your held down heavyweight Nick Feldman. We just got to interview him. He was showing us around. Just what does a personality like Nick do for a room?
I mean, he's a blessing. Obviously, I'm sure the interview will show his mindset. He's just for people. He's for the organization. He's a soldier. He's a good soldier. Whatever the organization, Ohio State needs, he's willing to do. He's still growing mentally, I think. I think there's growth. There's a lot of growth for him mentally. He trains really hard. He was another guy that wasn't healthy last year, for a long part of the season. Wasn't healthy at NCAA as much as you'd like. But, the great ones find a way that, either was Trimble in that match. I mean, both those guys are hurt. He was clearly hurt. We were hurt. And you got to find a way to get him, get it done. So, he had a really good summer of work. I think his fitness level is better than it's ever been. And he's got to be a guy that, with his speed and quickness, you can't stand in front of a person that's bigger, maybe not stronger than you, but taller than you, has leverage on you. You got to be able to go multiple attacks and know that you're going to be the guy like Jesse Mendes. You'll find a way to get it done. I think that's big growth for him. And when he gets there, it's going to be dangerous. So we're excited about him. We brought in some people to train with him. Sam Schuyler's with us now in the RTC. Jay Aiello is here. Not huge bodies. Sam is. Jay's, but he's a great wrestler. So you throw in Colin Moore and you throw in Bo Jordan and you start to put some people around him that can really put him under tension. Because, being under tension is critically important in practice.
Yeah.
And so he'll have that. And I think he's excited. He knows we'll do everything we can to get him people that can help him. So we're looking forward to a big year from him. This team has without question, there's not a guy in this lineup that I think, how's he going to place? Mm-hmm. I think everybody can place. The question is, can they break into the top 6? Yeah. First, can they break into the top 8? Because some of them are between 6 and 16, 6 and 15. You have Mendes and Feldman and a few others that you think, yeah, they can win the whole thing. So it's these guys believing they can win the whole thing, and then just continually to raise their level. The saying, becoming, pursuing the becoming is just truth. Becoming, it's I would say it's as much of a Christian mindset as anything. And it's like, do you ever arrive? No. But what are you becoming?
Yeah.
In the process of this, and becoming is the end result of constant tension in your life, and knowing what becoming looks like. Winning a match, Jesse won 2, he's still becoming, right? I mean, Jordan Burroughs won 6 world titles, he was still becoming, right? There's always challenges ahead. And is that your growth mindset, or is it, I won, I become? The second you think you've become, you've got a real problem. Yeah. Right? So I think that's just kind of the mindset of this team, is just endless journey of just constant improvement, keep getting better, keep love what you're doing. And, if this team does that, it'll be a fun march. Obviously, having the NCAAs in Cleveland is nice for us as well. I think last time we were in Cleveland, we had a chance to win, and we didn't. So, Penn State's got an unbelievable team, and Oklahoma State, even though they're lost some guys, they got some really good young guys. They're hungry in Iowa, and Cornell looks really good. I mean, Michigan will be a much improved team over last year. So, up and down the top 10 are pretty tough. So,
I kind of glossed over. You talked about him a little bit, but Brandon Cannon, just what he's been through in his life, the overcoming cancer. As he sort of re-announced himself when he recovered, and he had some nice tournaments in high school. But did you feel like he would be able to turn into this kind of a monster?
I believed he was that when I watched him wrestle Jesse off his true freshman year at 41. I watched him wrestle Jesse off, and then I watch how he trains and his love for the sport. I got to spar with him one day. I'm like, wow, he's really unorthodox. Used to wrestling someone that I do A, you can do B, C, or D, and he's just got a really bizarre feel. He loves the sport. He wrestles like someone who almost died, and the sport was taken from him, and he almost did. Right? He had a serious health issue. He had a health issue that took the sport from him for quite some time, and he wrestles that way. Like, you can't pretend experiences in your life. You've got to go through them. And he went through some things, or it's not as effective, right? When you walk through things, you have a better sense of what it's like than trying to comprehend what it's like. And he did. And I think had I not threw the cube, he might have won the Nationals. Mm-hmm. So I struggle with that, right? That's been, and a lot of good has come from it. Mike Haggerty, me, and a couple other coaches, we've really worked on officiating evaluations this offseason and making sure that mistakes just cannot happen. And, it's old news, it's over, but if you have video review, you got to get it right, period. Can't get it wrong. Or don't have video review, take it out, and just, let the officials decide and move forward. So I thought it was a reasonable call by me. We wanted to go up 11-6. Mm-hmm. Worst case scenario, it's 9-6 with a minute left. We're winning. But worst case scenario, I don't think there's a coach in history. I mean, I'm the first coach in history to fight for something and lose something he already had. And it was a bad call. So I can't say much more about it. I'll get in trouble.
Yeah.
Don't want to get you in trouble. But I mean, it's if the sport is that tough to make calls on and agree on, we got to simplify things, right? I think that's the end. That's the takeaway. one, you got to get the calls right. Two, if you use video review, they got to be timely and they got to be crisp and not a 10-minute delay, because he was definitely more tired than us. And I never thought to be a 10-minute delay.
No.
So all that just ties into how much I love Cannon and how hard it is as a coach to be in a situation where you did something that, on paper now, having two lenses, which was real time and post-match, it cost him the match, arguably. Mm-hmm. So it was tough. It was tough for me, because I love him and I want him to do well, and I know what he's been through. And, in this committee, this coaches committee that was put together to help the officiating, the assessments, there are people, me, one of them, if I had $100,000 to make that call right, I would have paid it in a second. It used to be like you could pay on the edge of the mat.
Yeah.
There used to be, that's the way they review one. Like, literally, is it not priceless?
Yeah.
Like
you can't buy it.
You can't buy it, so it's priceless. So for officials, and I know they feel this way, but for like an official going into the match, the only thing that matters is truth. Like, I've got to do at all costs, no matter how much I may like this team over that team, or like the way this guy wrestles over that guy. You got to find people that just want truth. And there are lots of matches where that's not the end result, but we're going to get there.
Yeah.
We're going to get closer to it, which is all we can do. It'll not be perfect. We got to get closer to it. So super excited about Cannon. Had a great summer. Wrestled really well at U23s. Won, I think, 11 matches in the wrestlebacks.
Yes.
That's an indication of
insane.
Insane, yeah. And some tough people. So super excited about him. Glad he's only a freshman, redshirt freshman. So.
Yeah. You mentioned, going through experiences. It's important for him. You're someone, you've gone through experiences, coach,
yeah.
and your accident. Where are you at with your recovery? I understand you just had another surgery. How are you progressing? I mean, you look like you're in pretty dang good shape considering what you've been through. But just catch us up there and how you're doing with that.
Well, April 23rd, 2024. So we're maybe 16 months removed from me hitting a tractor trailer full speed. He was parked, on the highway. Never saw him. I was changing lanes, looked in my left mirror, and came around a bend, and
he's in the lane.
He was in the lane 5:30 in the morning. 5:55, I hit him. And, the last year has been filled with challenges, I think everyone's life's filled with challenges. This one, for me, was just my physical challenges. This is my 5th major surgery in 16 months. Not being able to sweat or really move my legs for a long period of time. I think that was the most difficult thing I went through, because we know that scientifically, right? This isn't any more theory. They can show you with electrodes connected to your brain and working out that muscles secrete something that send calming things to your mind. Some people need it. Most people need it. I know that I need it, right? I need to be able to exercise. It's been a way of life for a long time. So I think a long time without that had me in a really bad place. On top of that, are my legs never gonna be the same? The pain, the discomfort. So it was really challenging, more emotionally than anything. The pain, this shoulder was last week. My legs hurt more than my shoulder. My legs are 16 months out. But the learning is kind of what I talked about earlier, and becoming, I'm a lot more than a coach, and on this one, Rick Warren talked about all the he said at one point life was a series of ups and downs. And then he modified his thinking to life's a series of train tracks. And you've got, as adults, as children, as people, we have multiple train tracks running in our lives simultaneously. And on track number 1 for me was that tractor trailer I hit. Mm-hmm. So it was a complete painful experience that has a lot of learning with it. A ton of learning for me through this. It's like not God why, but God what? What are you trying to teach me? On track 2, I had my 5th grandson. I didn't, but my children.
Yeah.
We have 5 grandchildren last week. My son, Jordan, August 12th, had his first baby. My daughter had a baby this year. So you've got this grandfatherhood that you're just loving up. That's a great train track. Your marriage staying strong, friendships staying strong, relationship with your family, mom and dad staying strong. Like all these train tracks we're here to manage. And this one was just tough, but by the grace of God, I got a lot of train tracks that were really positive. People lifted me. And I'm watching Askren go through something just horrifying. Horrifying. And I mean, what a blessing he wakes up and his mind has transformed from not sure if I believe to I believe, right? And there is no more important question than anybody has to answer. Am I here by chance or is there a God? And he was leaning a little bit toward the chance side, but no longer.
Yeah.
No longer. And what a testimony he's got for people. It's been really fun, just sharing with him some different things and back and forth. We've communicated more since his accident than we ever had before then.
Great.
Not his accident, but his illness.
Yeah.
I mean, mind-blowing. And the guy's a warrior, and it wasn't his time. So yeah, I'm healing. This is the 5th surgery. I got one more. They got to take all the screws and the steel out of this kneecap so I can wrestle again. My goal is to wrestle again.
Wow.
There's just something, as we know, it's like you as a parent, you have what?
2.
2.
Yeah.
As a parent, there's nothing that bonds your relationship to a child like being on the floor with them, playing with them, like just showing up.
Yep.
Just show up and be there for them. And in the sport of wrestling, as we all know, being on the mat matters. I want to be back on the mat. I mean, I cannot wait to wrestle McCrone. Now, I don't wrestle any big guys anymore. I like to wrestle McCrone and Vinny and Ben and Nick when they're tired at the end of practice.
There you
that's
go.
where my level's at right now. But it's still, when you spar with them, there's also a level of teaching that's far greater when you experience what they're doing versus watching. You don't know where their angle is, their leverage, where they're putting energy and stuff, unless you feel it. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm hoping that I can get back to that after this hopefully be my last surgery through this accident.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
One thing that Ben talked about, was just kind of not feeling sorry for himself, and he had like kind of one moment where he did, and he kind of like course corrected. Did you ever go through anything like that? Like, man, why? You said you got to the what, but you started maybe with why.
I don't. Even in the loss, I'm like I would say the 2 most tragic events of my life, right? The loss of my son, which never through the loss of Teague in 2004. I was emotionally broken. I was broken, but I was healthy physically. So I'm learning the difference between the difference between being broken physically, me being broken physically, really challenged me emotionally. I mean, I went through periods of time where I visualized how I would end myself. Like I was at that space. I was in that space.
Wow.
So it was never like, I don't think I ever went through a why me, but I definitely went through, I'm done, man. Like, I'm done. Which was really horrifying for me, horrifying to go through. Like, what is wrong with you? You have everything that you could possibly want, and you're struggling. So it really gave me, the learning, like, God, what are you trying to teach me? That mental illness, mental unwellness is real. And when someone say, I'm just really anxious over this, my thinking before this accident would be, well, stop it. It's not real. You're anxious about, you can fix. But to the person who's anxious, it's as real as can be. And I think for me, it was really a lot of learning for me, in dealing with people that suffer from anxiety, because I've never had anxiety over anything. I mean, I could fall asleep, in the national finals, I could fall asleep a minute before. Like, I just really never struggled. So God's teaching me how to deal better with student athletes and family members and friends that are dealing with anxiety that is just like, we'll pray about it.
Yeah.
Go to God about it. So some of them know me well that I've advised in the past are like, well, go to God about it. Well, I am, but it's not working enough, So you question your faith and you all these questions. But so, definitely not why, but definitely, some things that were really just really challenging.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, appreciate you sharing all that.
Yeah.
Last things is there's no seamless segue, but for the upcoming season, National Collegiate Duels Invitational, you love the dual meet. You're a big proponent of it. How excited are you about this event and just that it exists and that you guys are going to be in it? You're going to have a very real chance to win it.
Yeah, we feel good about our team. We're super excited about the event. I know that Flo and the high school coaches and the NWCA and a lot of other coaches have tried to get a dual meet championship right on the table for this sport. We only know where wrestling is now. We don't know where wrestling would have been had in the 1970s there was a dual meet championship, right? With the facts that we have, is not having one has not helped us. We've only lost teams. So my belief, and again, my belief was in the 70s, if we had a dual meet championship, the sport would be in a better place. I don't know that, but I only know what is. So how can we change what is? So super excited about the duels. I think the motto of this interview has been becoming, and it's a good start. I'm in because I believe it can morph into what it really needs to be, which is something at the end of the year, either after the NCAAs or right before, likely after. I know we've had conversation about, I wasn't a big proponent after. I never thought that could ever work, but I do now. I believe that a dual meet championship post NCAAs would be great, but we're underway. Right? We're moving forward. We have a bunch of teams that decided to participate and determine who the best team in the country is going to be. Is it early? Sure. You know, I don't watch The Bachelor anymore, but when I watched it, you wouldn't decide who The Bachelor is on the first day of in the first night and then work backward. You move toward the end. But it's going to determine, right? It's going to be the determiner who the best dual meet team in the country is on that date. So I'm all for it. We were pretty much in right away. You know, I wanted to make sure that the people that are behind it are also flexible in that, is it going to be this weekend forever? Can it be at a time of the year that makes more sense? Can you earn your way into it, not based on last year's performance or your lineup, but earn your way in based on your season's success or lack of it? So it's not perfect, but it is really good, and we're really excited about it.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate your time. I don't know how long we've been going, but 40 minutes. This has been great. Do you have anything else before we let you go, get back to your day?
No.
Thanks for your time, Coach. Appreciate it.